Hello, this is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today I want to talk about just some rhetoric from both sides that doesn't make any sense. Some of the disillusions from evangelicals speaking out about stuff that's going on in the world of politics. The weird obsession that people have in the media about Donald Trump's ear and obtaining those medical records and so on. And I've seen conspiracy theories and all sorts of stuff. It's funny that Joe Biden is like a mental potato. Yet they're like, what about Trump's ear? Do they think he's brain damaged now? Like, what is anyway? And other stuff. But before we jump into it all, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost to stream and run my website, all that stuff. You guys can support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. If you cannot donate, I know things are tough in Biden's America, but you can also just support by watching. That does help. And you guys can tag other people, send my stuff to them, tell them to, check out Black Tea News, tell them to check out articles. Maybe you can't support, maybe someone else would. So just continue to spread the word. Make sure that you guys are subscribed and hit the notification bells. Or if you're watching on Facebook, that you guys are following or liking the page. I don't know if you can do any notification stuff specifically with Facebook, but thank you guys for watching live, and those of you who will watch it back later. You guys can also check out different merch that's available at blacktnews.com. The I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For shirt, and also got the Denounce White Supremacy, Defeat Joe Biden shirt with a list of some of his racism on the back and other stuff as well. So go ahead and check that stuff out. I also have different books you guys can check out on Amazon. I have 18 altogether. 2 are nonfiction, the rest are fiction, but one of my nonfiction books is, of course, God is blatantly against abortion. So before we get into it, well, let me start off with this story first, because it'll take a while to explain. So this morning, I saw people on Twitter talking about a comment that Joe Biden made. So apparently he was on a Zoom call. And this was before, I believe the Zoom call was before the assassination attempt on Trump's life. It might have been that morning. And so if not for that, I assume people probably would have really started pushing to get Joe Biden to leave. Perhaps he wouldn't have, though. I think they're going to have to pry, the nomination from his cold, dead hands. But even so, dead Democrats vote anyway. So what does it matter? That's a joke. A wink, wink. But so I don't. And after Trump was, the assassination attempt, people probably feel like it's pretty much over. There's going to be too many people rallying around Trump, and you have to change your rhetoric, which the Democrats really didn't change their rhetoric. They're justifying their rhetoric, saying, well, we got to explain how evil he is, right? Even if it might incite someone, we have to explain the truth. And then they go on to lie. So there is no healing the soul of the nation. But I think they feel like there's no point wasting anyone else. We might as well just let Biden, go. Just let him fall down the steps and fail electorally, and not waste anyone else. So, but this would have caused probably a stir that day. And I don't know if this was kind of reported on that day at all, but now it's pretty much coming out. But there's a story about Joe Biden being on a Zoom call and chastising, I guess, the Democrats who are concerned about how he's going to affect the rest of the ticket and how he's going to cause a lot of vulnerable Democrats to lose their spots. And so this has been reported a couple different places. I shared on, I think, on Facebook and YouTube, and I had retweeted some from Twitter. There was an article from Fox News, but Fox News is not the only ones reporting it. So this section from Puck News has more of the quote together. So I'm just going to read this. The campaign, so this is on a Zoom call. So there's video. I wonder if there will be video that emerges, because that's going to be some good stuff and ads and so on. And what I'm going to read to you is important because they keep trying to trash Trump on losers and suckers, and that's hearsay. And that's from a story from The Atlantic, which the premise of the story was debunked anyway. And mostly everyone involved with that story said it didn't happen. Granted, I guess they have reason to say that it didn't happen. Trump calling, like, not wanting to go to a memorial service for veterans and stuff because he thought they're losers and suckers. What a silly story. The official story is that because of weather, they couldn't like fly him there, and how the roads were, they didn't have a good exit strategy for him. So, and I think he went like the next day or when it was clear, like another day, and he sent other representatives. But the story from The Atlantic is the reason why he didn't go is because he thinks they're losers and suckers. So the story never made sense, like intellectually, if you just I think I tried to mix intellectually and logically. That's why that word came out wrong. But it just doesn't make sense. If you think about, even if he hated the troops, why would he say that among generals and other military people? It's just unbelievable how stupid it is. Now, if you think Trump is unbelievably stupid, then I guess even if you thought he was unbelievably stupid, that's just too far. It's really hard to believe unless you really, really hate the guy. So their premise of the story, I debunked it when it came out on blacktnews.com. You guys can go back in the archives and find that article, but not true. But they push the losers and suckers thing really hard. So here's Joe Biden making a comment at a veteran, not at a combat veteran. And it still doesn't sound like it makes a ton of sense anyway. So anyway, this is the section of the paper. The campaign did not, however, dispute the next part about Crow and the Bronze Star. In a video of the Zoom that I was able to view, you can hear Biden chastising Crow, who asked about the importance of national security to voters. First of all, I think you're dead wrong on national security, the president says, the emotion at times garbling his words. You saw what happened recently in terms of the meeting we had with NATO. I put NATO together. Name me a foreign leader who thinks I'm not the most effective leader in the world on foreign policy. Tell me who the heck that is. Tell me who put NATO back together. Tell me who enlarged NATO. Tell me who did the Pacific Basin. Tell me who did something that you've never done with your Bronze Star, like my son. And I'm proud of your leadership, but guess what? What's happening? We've got Korea and Japan working together. I put AUKUS together anyway. I'm sure you've probably said it. Things are in chaos, and I'm bringing some order to it. And again, find me a world leader who's an ally of ours, who doesn't think I'm the most respected person they've ever. And then they interrupted and said that it's not breaking through, Mr. President, said Crow to our voters. You ought to talk about it, Biden shot back, listing his accomplishments yet again. On national security, nobody has a better president than I've been. Name me one. So I don't want to hear that crap. So when voters are struggling to buy groceries for their families, when they're struggling because the gas is high, granted, it's a lot less than it used to be, but it's still, higher than we would like. when they, turn on the news and they hear about California saying that the teachers don't have to report if your kids have, something up with their gender identity. They can keep that a nice little secret. Uh, and those teachers are legally protected by this law. When people hear about all this crazy stuff and they start complaining to the Democrats in these vulnerable areas about these things, do you think their response should be, yeah, but Biden does a great job with NATO? Tell me who's better at NATO stuff. Yeah. I mean, he writes out checks to Ukraine like no other, bro. Sorry about your gas prices. that isn't persuasive to people. But Joe Biden is angry and shouting, I assume. It seems like an angry rant. But what was it supposed to mean? Tell me who the when you mention this thing, tell me who did something that you've never done with your bronze star, like my son. What does it even mean? And that was when I posted that, people were like, I don't even understand what that's supposed to mean. I know that's a diss, but why bring up Bo? And some people were like, why does he always bring up his son? I've mentioned this many times too. Like, why does he always bring up his son as some kind of exclamation point, as some kind of gotcha? Like, aha, my son is dead. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird. And he'll change details, exaggerate details about his son to, not just relate to, it sounds cruel to say he uses a sympathy card, but I don't know how else to be honest and explain it. Like, why would you bring up your son in this conversation? And why would you kind of belittle the bronze star here? Why? So anyway, I haven't been watching mainstream news too much today, so I don't know how much Republicans are pushing this and talking about it. But they should I don't know how much traction it can get without the video, but or how much traction it'll get because it's so confusing anyway. But we know it's a diss. We know it's a disrespectful thing that he said about someone who's a combat veteran. So it's all very bizarre. The president is so very bizarre. Him and his administration, I still can't get over the Secret Service and the director not wanting to resign, and them knowing that roof that the shooter climbed on was a threat, but they didn't want anyone to basically guard the top of it and be there because they said it had a slope. The slope wasn't that bad. Like, well, it could be dangerous. Could someone climbing on top of the roof with a gun and shooting at the president be dangerous? Could that possibly be dangerous? And none of these people want to resign. And it seems like Biden doesn't want to fire any of these people. It's just bizarre. And I've heard that the security has been lacking at a couple rallies. So I don't think this one is probably that particularly unique, but someone certainly took advantage of it. Someone certainly took advantage of it. Oh. Anyway, Kamala Harris, since we're on the topic of the administration, she did accept JD Vance's invitation to debate. And I don't think any of the details have been quite worked out yet, but I assume they'll probably be something similar to, Biden. I don't know if Kamala Harris would want the no interruption thing either, but I don't know. People on the left are saying like, oh, I can't wait till she debates him. She's going to kill him. And I don't know where this confidence in Kamala Harris comes from. I don't. Because she's obviously not good at speaking. Like, there are moments when she does bursts of things like during Senate hearings, but these people talk all the time in Senate hearings, and you find what a snippet here or there of that their own social media team will put out there to prove that they said something. That doesn't mean that she's going to be good on her feet. The best dig that she ever did was against Joe Biden, which was obviously pre-planned when she brought up the fact that she was bused and integrated in schools and stuff, and accused Biden of trying to stop her from doing that. So basically the assertion is that he's a racist. And so she's like, that girl was me. And it was an iconic moment for her, I guess, that got a lot of buzz at the time. She was selling shirts and so on, but it definitely wasn't enough to get her, you know, a win anywhere. She dropped out before even she could prove herself in her own state's primary, which she probably wouldn't have done very well either. And of course, Tulsi Gabbard just nuked her. And other people made her look foolish too. I can't think of any like good moments on the debate stage that she had other than nuking Joe Biden that one time. Sometimes they'd have conversations that once they were talking about guns, and she was like, I would just do stuff by executive order. And Joe Biden said, okay, you can do a lot of things by executive order, but what are you talking about you can't do by executive order? And she just starts laughing at Joe Biden. She's like, you say we can't, but I say we can, Joe. And that's just the answer, just the laughing. And I don't think, taking away our rights by executive order is funny, but Joe Biden still picked her, did he not? She's still sitting there as vice president, as the DEI pick, and they have to suffer for it. So she's not going to do a good job. And she lost to Mike Pence. And that she lost to Mike Pence because the media was talking about, silly things, and the commentaries about how she really couldn't go at him because of how people would view her as a woman, like she's too much of a B word, or a angry Black woman and stuff. And there is some merit to some of those arguments, but if she had totally killed him, those would be the narratives that were pushed around, but that wasn't the case. And people really tried to focus on that fly that landed in Mike Pence's hair instead. So she's probably not going to do well. Now, I've seen her talk and debate more than I've seen JD Vance talk and debate. And he's obviously done debates. I just kind of guess I need to go look at old ones, but I'm not from Ohio, so I never had the really chance to vote for JD Vance. But he has a really high IQ. But just because you have really high IQ doesn't mean that necessarily that you're gonna destroy someone in a debate. But he's a bulldog, and Trump wouldn't have picked him if he wasn't a bulldog. So I think she's gonna just probably get destroyed, and she can't save Joe Biden. She'll have to have some pretty devastating pre-planned hits out there. And the best one I can think of are the sorts of comments that he made about Trump in the past, but he has a decent response to those comments, which is basically Trump proved him wrong, like he did to a lot of Americans. So that's really not going to be enough. Plus, he can also bring up the fact that she not only said that implied that Joe Biden was racist, and she still accepted him as the vice president. She accepted that Joe Biden sexually assaulted Tara Reade. She said because they had this whole believe all women, and they believe Christine Blasey Ford, even though everyone involved said it didn't happen and she didn't have a time, date, location, etc., etc. The story didn't really come together, but they were like, believe all women, and you got to believe Anita Hill. You have to believe all the women. They're never wrong. Trust them all the time. So when there was this information that came out about about Tara Reade, and there's corroborating stuff, at least on her part, Kamala Harris had to bite the bullet and say that she believes women. So you believe women, so you believe that the person you're serving with sexually assaulted Tara Reade. So he could bring that up. So I have no idea what she's going to have to try to throw at JD Vance, but she's way more vulnerable than he is, and he can talk. I'm sure certainly better than she can. She's just dead with this issue. She's absolutely dead with this issue. But she did do a little video that I want to show you guys. She's coming to Michigan, I think today. Maybe she's already been here. I mean, I thought about maybe trying to track her down and talk to the audience and man on the street stuff, but I actually had car trouble today that really sucked. But here's the video that she had released about JD Vance.
Hey everyone, so Donald Trump has picked his new running mate, JD Vance. Trump looked for someone he knew would be a rubber stamp for his extreme agenda, and make no mistake, JD Vance will be loyal only to Trump, not to our country.
So this idea that he'd be loyal to only Trump and not the country is trash, I would say. And just extreme sort of rhetoric that they should knock off. But he's a loyalist, who will do what Trump wants. I think there's merit to that critique, because I would say that's probably why he endorsed abortion pills, access to abortion pills. So a little speck of truth there. But my issue with these folks is that I think you could do more with the truth than you can with lies. But there's lots of things that she says that aren't true, obviously.
And unlike Mike Pence, Vance said he would have carried out Trump's plan to overturn the 2020 election. He supports.
So I think them going back to like the election, January 6th stuff, I don't think that any of that stuff has enough merit to overcome the economic situation of the country, to overcome the border issues. If they were competent dealing with those matters, I think the election stuff could play a part. However, folks can overlook it because they're so bad at their job. So they really want this to be a referendum on what happened January 6th and Trump's behavior from, the time the election was lost to him, to, I guess him still saying that he won it and how people feel about that, and election denial, and et cetera, et cetera. But you can't focus on that because there's people coming across the border and raping 12-year-olds for 2 hours. So like, that's why it still boggles my mind why they wouldn't just be a little bit better on the border to show some competency there. As far as the point of he would have went along with the plan, as opposed to what Mike Pence did, I think that's a good point for people worried about that, because that was a reason why I was saying that Vivek, if he picked Vivek, that would be an issue, that would be a problem. If he just went along and like overturn the kicked it back to the states and whatnot, and didn't just certify the election. So a lot of people had an issue with that. So she's bringing up a point that a lot of people could go, oh yeah, let's nod a bit with that. But then they still always go so extreme and have to mix in their lies with things.
Supports a national abortion ban and voted against protecting IVF.
So the national abortion ban thing. So this is what I don't understand. This is what I don't understand. Okay. They're so out of touch. And she had wrote a tweet today too about that. And I think I had retweeted it. But I said I just don't understand them being this out of touch with this issue at all. Because there's enough evidence. She said more than 1 in 3 women across our country live under a Trump abortion ban. A second Trump term would be even worse. President Joe Biden and I are fighting to protect reproductive freedoms. So that's what they talk about all day long, day and night. It's abortion, abortion, abortion. It's their first priority. Oh, you can't feed your kids, but at least you can kill them. That's their message. I wish that's how we were going to hit them. I think we could have still protected and stood for life and defeated them. That's not the route the Republicans wanted to go. That's not the route that Trump wanted to go. And I think that's very unfortunate. Um, Unfortunate is a kind word. I have stronger feelings than that. But she said, I'm heading to Michigan today to discuss what's at stake this year's election. And I'm just like, it's abortion. It's abortion. That's all you people care about. Um, State of the Union, before they talked about the border, they talked about abortion and IVF and all that other stuff. Okay. Trump has conceded the fight to this, basically. Conceded so much ground to the left on this issue. He has. He doesn't want it to be a thing anymore. Even people saying that, well, Trump is just saying it's a states' rights thing. That's not even an appropriate narrative, because he talked about Arizona's law that came into effect about it being a ban and wanted them to legalize abortion. So here's a pro-life victory, and he wanted to strip it away. He said that heartbeat bills are evil or terrible. Terrible was it was either terrible or horrible, one of the two. And he talked about Mississippi when they said that people could sue an IVF clinic for being liable for someone dropping their embryos. I don't know why they wouldn't be liable. And if holding them liable destroys the IVF industry, I think we need to question what's wrong with the IVF industry, not say, well, we just need to have like zero or close to no restrictions. I think we need to know more about it. And probably need to have more regulation and hold them accountable and et cetera, et cetera. Not just be a free for all. I don't know how much of the surrender on that is people empathizing with the fact that people want to make families, and this is an opportunity for people to make families, and the political backlash to it, versus there's a lot of money in it. So I don't know if that's how much of that is playing a factor into any of this at all. But Donald Trump, it's not really a leave it to the states thing. It's, well, I'm going to talk about the states that don't do what I want them to do. And it very much reminds me of during the pandemic when Donald Trump was saying, oh, the states, I'm not going to impose things. We're just going to suggest things. And the states, they can decide what they want to do. And he's like tweeting mean things about Gretchen Whitmer and saying, liberate Michigan and all this different stuff. When Alabama, when Georgia wants to open up, he's like, you're doing it too fast. And he's calling them and criticizing them and criticizing Ron DeSantis and other states that are red that are opening up, because he doesn't want the backlash from the media when these other red states start actually liberating their people. So he wanted to virtue signal to his base, like, oh, I'm the liberty person, but at the same time, he's, on the down low criticizing and really bullying these Republican governors who are trying to embrace liberty for their people. So you could say that you're for the states doing the right, whatever they want to do, and federalism or whatever, but you're using the bully pulpit to try to kneecap them to comply. So his position is about, as far as abortion thing, I believe it's about doing what's just going to make him look the best. And you could say, well, that's just kind of the nature of elections. But I just don't need people to pretend that it's some kind of federalist or constitutional 10th Amendment issue, when the truth is he just doesn't want it to weigh him down. It's a fight that he doesn't want to be involved in anymore. That's what it is. That's what it is. And he still wants to say a little bit so he can virtue signal to his base a bit. But the truth is that he's kind of done with it. He's kind of done with it. So I said that to say there's a lot of people on the right who are upset about this. There's evangelicals who are upset about this, who are upset about the treatment they received during the platform committee meetings and stuff, that they would not allow to be on C-SPAN and other things like that, because they wanted as hush-hush as possible. So there's a real fracture. There's people debating on whether or not they're going to support the Republican ticket. Like what are the risks of supporting this bad behavior? Are evangelicals basically saying we're irrelevant, we're the cheap date, we're the side chick, we're the if they just go along with this stuff while they basically don't give us anything, but lip service, when in reality they're abandoning a lot of the morals and principles that drew us to supporting the Republican Party in the first place. So while Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are like, they're just going to get rid of abortion, oh my gosh, they're going to do a national ban, when Trump is saying over and over and over again that I'm not touching abortion pills. That's how 2/3 of abortions are done. The fact that they mention late term abortion, the platform, like that being the thing that they oppose, signals that they don't think too much about the unborn prior to late term abortion. So that's only like 1.3% of abortions. And some of them are for, medical, well, uh, uh, there might be medical situations, but it doesn't mean it's emergency. It could be like you found out your child is Down syndrome or trisomy 18 or, you know, a, a, a missing foot or something like that. And then you decide that you want to have an abortion. So, those are probably situations that states, would probably, some would allow exceptions for anyway. But there are people who do late term abortions for similar reasons that they do early abortions, but still that's, there's about 1 million abortions a year, and we're talking about around 10 to 12,000. So if Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were honest about this and dropped this and just pointed out that Trump's position on this is basically comparable to theirs. Not Kamala Harris. She's freaking insane. Joe Biden's. Kamala Harris will like legit arrest you. Like she the David Delighten thing. There's a guy named David Delighten who's investigating Planned Parenthood and found out about them, selling baby body parts, and so she they had him arrested. So that was while she was in California. So she's someone to be really concerned about. But Joe Biden, he's going around saying, I want to restore Roe v. Wade. But so that would allow, now he's saying he doesn't like late term abortion, and he's saying that Democrats don't support late term abortion. That's not true. I don't know how deluded he is or how much he's lying. It's to flip a coin. We don't know these days. But he says he doesn't like late term abortion. As a Catholic, I can probably accept that that's the truth. But Roe v. Wade still allows late term abortion if that's what the states decide. So whether he feels that way or not, him allowing Roe v. Wade to be restored allows abortion up until the moment of birth. But so does Trump's position of let the states decide, and if the states decide that they want abortion up until the moment of birth, then that's what they can do under his worldview. And if that's your worldview, that's true too. So if Democrats were going around just pointing that out and exposing this kind of chasm that's in the Republican Party right now about some of these social issues, they would, that's probably way more effective to them not gaining votes, but having people stay home or be disillusioned and not support Trump. That's a better strategy than just lying about things all the time. So I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I don't get it. I think they're just so out of touch. Because the only person who would believe the lies, or not person, but the only people who would believe her lies about Trump banning all the abortions are people who are going to support them anyway. I mean, maybe they're really trying to drive it in because they want those people energized and to go to the polls. But if you want young people energized and going to the polls, I don't know if that's going to happen because they're mad about the Israel stuff. So they already have a problem with their young base, their young energized base, and they're mad at them, and they're saying that they're not going to support them. So they might as well be honest and actually play on things that are actually a disruption in the Republican Party. But they're so used to lying. They can't give up the lie. And if they did give up the lie, then they would be exposed that they've been lying the whole time. I guess they kind of have an out with the platform change. They could be like, oh, we read the platform and we're so glad that you support a woman's right to choose. I'm so glad that that's now off the table. And, and then they could just talk about the goodies they want to give to everybody and see if that sways people. That's a much better strategy to me. But let me finish playing out this video of our conversation about JD Vance. Again, I don't think she's going to want to debate with him.
And if elected, he will help implement the Extreme Project 2025 plan for a second Trump term, which would target critical programs like Head Start and Medicare. But we are not going to let that happen. Hey, everyone. So Donald Trump has picked his new running mate, JD Vance.
It's replaying. So, again, Project 2025 is not the Trump campaign. It's Heritage and a bunch of other conservative group tank people coming together for like a 900-page document. And most people haven't read it or talking about it. Trump hasn't certainly talked about it. You can go read about Agenda 47 on Trump's website. You can look at the Republican platform, see how they change stuff. They are not going to get rid of the programs that she is talking about. Trump doesn't want to touch. I don't think he wants to touch like benefits at all. Now, that's like the biggest burden of like our spending. So I don't see like fiscal responsibility being much of a priority with the Republican Party these days. Because he doesn't want that to affect him in the polls either. He's been running to the left since the primary. He's been there the whole time on these issues, and he attacked DeSantis from the left, and he's still there. He's still there. To be frank, it's kind of more like Republicans these days are more like Democrats from like the Clinton era, and the Democrats today are like socialists. Biden is talking about rent caps, and they're still, they've moved on from just trying to do the forgiveness for college loans. They're going to do medical stuff and other things too, if they can. And I'm just kind of like, why don't you just not charge taxes? Like that would kind of help, wouldn't it? Well, but you need to fund all your goodies. That's right. But I mean, there's people who have, why don't you cancel like the taxes that people owe, or just say, you know what, we're just not gonna collect anything for a year or so. We'll eat ramen here in the White House, and for the benefit of the American people, cut back a bit. You guys are on a budget, so we should be on a budget. How like difficult would that be for someone to say, you're on a budget, so we're going to be on a budget. We're going to be responsible because, the collective decisions from legislators, have, created a mess for the American people. So we're going to do our part, I don't know. Again, no one's really running on fiscal responsibility. So anyway, he's going to kill her. I don't know. I don't think they've announced a date yet, but he's going to kill her. That's my prediction. I don't like to predict things because I don't like to be wrong. But he'd have to really screw up to not beat Kamala Harris. Now, I talked about delusions from both sides because before I jumped on here with you guys, I was scrolling through TikTok, and there was a live with someone who said, I'm a Christian, I'm voting for Trump. And so I started listening to the live because I was curious what he was going to say. And because there's a lot of like social issues that have just kind of been abandoned, spearheaded from the Trump campaign. So I was just curious what he was going to say. So before he got to me, he was talking to this guy who's lean left. He didn't seem like a radical or whatever, but they talked a little bit about abortion and stuff. And the guest he had on said some things that weren't true, but about like late term and so on and so forth. But they seemed to find a bit of common ground. But he said, from like the outside looking in at you guys, we think you guys are so crazy because we just see him as some kind of Democrat, trickster from, New York who's running a game on all you guys. And so he kind of laughed. He's like, well, maybe he is, but he's doing some things that I like and so on. So then I was next. And so I said, so why are you supporting Trump as a Christian? And then he starts listing some policies like the border and other stuff like that, which are legitimate reasons. I think the border is like the number one reason to support Trump. And I said, well, no, I mean, like, because you said about your values, like you said that he's supporting things that align with your Christian values. So those are the things I'm kind of talking about. So then he's like, okay, yeah, Trump, he supports. Well, he did a lot of things to help religious liberty. He's like, I don't have a list of things, but there's lots of things. You can Google them. So he didn't cite anything specific. He didn't even name anything specific. He just, kind of threw that out there. And then he said they support marriage, and then he said something about abortion. So I said, okay, well, how do you feel about the log cabin republic? I said, they how do you feel about them stripping like the pro traditional marriage stuff out of the platform? I said the log cabin Republicans praised the platform for not having any sort of like traditional stuff in it. So how do you feel about that? And I said, and how do you feel about he's I think he just kind of brushed over that. And I said, well, how do you feel about that how they changed the platform that it's now basically pro-choice? And I said, and how do you feel about how they did intimidate and bully and steamrolled the pro-life people who were part of the platform committee? And he's like, that's not true. I'm like, what do you mean it's not true? I said, it is true. And I said, they took phones, they wouldn't allow media, they took their smart watches, they when they were taking notes, they had people followed. And he's like, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. And so I'm like, yeah, it absolutely is true. So I said, there's different articles about it that you can read. And so but he kept going, it's not true, it's not true. And I said that I actually read an article account from it on my True Black Tea account, and he just wouldn't believe what I was saying. Now, I don't want what I said to be true. I definitely don't want it to be true, but Tony Perkins has been talking about it. Other people have been reporting. I think they reported in Axios, and some other major news sites were reporting it. And so I had talked about it a bit, and then there was a pretty detailed account in the Washington Times. I can't remember if I read it to you guys or not all the way through. I think maybe I did, but I definitely posted it on my socials, and I found it to be really disappointing. I said they made it so that this stuff wouldn't be in the platform, and he just didn't believe me. He didn't believe me. And he's like, well, they got rid of Roe v. Wade, and Biden's view is so extreme. It's so extreme. And I said, well, Biden's view is essentially the same as Trump's. And then he kicked me. He's like, that's not true. I said, it absolutely is true. And he kicked me. Now, I didn't say all this as calmly as I'm talking to you guys, because I don't know, my voice was a little jittery as I was speaking. And then when you say I'm saying something that's not true, that blows my mind. I'm like, you're uninformed. This did happen. So he ended up kicking me. He's like, that's so ridiculous. That's so ridiculous. He also said that Trump said they're going to leave it to the states. And I said, saying that abortion is a states' rights is like saying that slavery is a states' rights. He's like, did you just compare abortion to slavery? I'm like, yes. And to me, that's a common comparison that people who are pro life or abolitionists, especially abolitionists, make all the time. And it's not that we're saying that they're the same thing, they're obviously different things. But the reasoning and ideology that people use to defend one, you usually apply both ways. But the issue is that these are human beings, and we're saying that these human beings don't deserve particular rights, inalienable rights, because of certain descriptives that they have. So they're human beings, but they're black. They're human beings, but they're not outside of a womb yet, you know? So we get to, even though they're human and alive, we're just gonna ignore that they have an inalienable right to life, and grant a special murder right to kill them. So I don't understand why he was so offended with that. I'm just like, how pro life is this guy? Because people make those comparisons all the time. So it always kind of throws me for a loop when there's someone's offended by it who's quote unquote pro life. Um, Someone that got mad at me the other day for using that as a comparison and said I was being woke because I was pulling the slavery card. I said, why don't you just address the comparison? And instead of, he said I was doing an appeal to emotion. Calling me a woke leftist is showing that they're having an emotional moment. I said, you can just address the argument that I'm making, which that was the last comment that I gave. He didn't end up replying to. So, and he had also mentioned, he's like, well, we know what Trump and JD Vance said. I said, they said that they support the abortion pills. And they did. So before that Washington Times article came out, I did make an article about some of the reports that were going on. So I'm gonna go back and show you one account from this woman. I'm not gonna reread the Washington Times article, but um, they wouldn't allow media in. Like usually C-SPAN will cover that stuff. They didn't want that this year. They took their phones and their smartwatches, and if people were taking notes, they had people follow them. They were holding up signs telling people how to vote, and it was stacked with Trump loyalists. So who we're gonna push it through. So this is an account from one woman after it had happened.
Take me inside. There were no phones. Was there any debate? How unusual was this year?
It's never happened before. Like I said, I've done this several times. There was no committees. We always had subcommittees where we can go in and work on a section of the platform. We can propose amendments, debate them, add them. Always happens. I've done it many times. And then it usually take today, and then tomorrow we would come back and meet as a complete platform, and sometimes there'd be more amendments. They didn't allow any amendments. They didn't allow any discussion. They rolled us. That's what they did. We only spent thousands of dollars to be here, and everything they told us they were going to do isn't what happened. None of it happened. I've never seen this happen before. I don't understand why they did it, and I'm extremely disappointed that we do not have any pro-life language. There are good things in this platform. There are a lot of things in there that I support and that I would want to, but I didn't vote for this because we've never had a platform. I've been coming to these conventions since 1992, and this is the first time we don't have a pro-life platform. The platform simply says that we oppose late-term abortion. Well, what about before that? There's nothing. It doesn't even want any place mention the unborn baby at all. Never happened before. And I've never been treated so badly to have them force this vote on us before we even had a chance to read the platform. We didn't even have it. They gave it to us, but then they had a meeting with people speaking. So we glanced through it, but we didn't have time to study it and read it. And then all of a sudden somebody made a motion to vote on the platform. And that was it. And then they sent us home with it, said, well, goodbye.
Yeah. So the stuff that the taxes that they did were really unusual. So, and when people complained to Marsha Blackburn, who was leading it, she's like, why do these people get to film us and we can't have our phones? Like, they're just working. And then someone else was like, we know that you're in the minority. They're really bullied him. Can I get this link? Yes, you can. It's actually, if you go to blacktnews.com, like I know I had retweeted that somewhere on my Twitter, but you can go to my website, and it's like the second article, I think. If you go to the columns, it is it's the second to the last article that I wrote that's up on the site, so you guys can go find that there. The source is there. So I guess I can maybe just copy it right now and put it in the chat. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys can really click the links like that in the chat while it's live on the side like that. You can let me know, but for later, but maybe you guys can, I guess you can copy it probably. So Tony Perkins was trying to stop this and was trying to get it amended. It didn't happen. But anyway, on his show, he was talking to Ali Stuckey about the concerns going on and in the GOP about some of this stuff. And I think she made good points with their conversation. Now, I think they both plan to still support Trump, but they are concerned about where the Republican Party is going. And a lot of people are concerned. It's funny though, because there's so many people who are really bringing out the pitchforks for evangelicals. I've heard people say crazy things like, "Oh, well, the evangelicals have held the Republican Party back, and Republicans haven't been winning." I'm like, "What do you mean we haven't been winning? Like, you guys act like we never won elections before Trump came along." Like, yes, Obama won his 2 terms, but before that, did we not have 2 years Bush? I mean, 2 terms of Bush, and so on. Like Reagan won his elections. We had Daddy Bush before that. So, it goes back and forth, but it's not like we were winning nothing. But the coalition of evangelicals made the Republican Party powerful that Reagan and Newt assembled and had together. Now, there's been people in the Republican Party who resent the evangelicals and have wanted them to have no power or be gone for a while. And Rush Limbaugh would talk about that. People would complain like, well, when are we going to get rid of these Christians? When are we going to get rid of these conservatives? And he's like, are you guys stupid? They're the reason why you guys are winning, like mobilizing that power. And there's different groups like the Faith and Freedom Conference that I went to in like last month. Their goal is to mobilize more Christians to vote, because a lot of people do sit out. But the Republican Party, though, there's a lot of people who aren't religious or who have different religions who sit under the umbrella of the Republican Party. There's definitely a lot of Christians and people who claim they're Christian because they feel like they have to coddle and do lip service or whatever to the evangelicals. But now it is certainly not that way. Evangelicals, they're the ones who made Trump win. They gave him a big push in the 2016 primary. He's like, well, let me deal with these guys. And they're like, sure, we can deal with Trump. He's speaking to things that we would like him to do. And though there are other people who are actually who definitely conservative and seem to be very religious, we're going to put our trust in him because he seems like a man who's going to fight and get things done. So we're going to trust him. And then, they supported him despite like 2 Corinthians and the Hollywood Access tape and all kinds of other stuff. They still like stood by him, and especially after he won the election, the primary, because what are your choices? Hillary Clinton. So he got that support, and in this primary in 2024, they overwhelmingly supported him in Iowa and shut down everybody else. Like they did not give anyone else a chance. So evangelicals still have a lot of power. Now it's just a question of are they being taken advantage of? So this is the conversation that Tony Perkins had with Allie Beth Stuckley, and he's the president of the Faith and Family Freedom Coalition. So
So we're talking about the platform. You've expressed concerns about it. I was on the platform committee. I was not happy with it. When you take that, especially on the life issue, which has been a bridge for many evangelicals into the political process, the Republican Party in particular, when you take that in conjunction with some of the speakers that we're seeing at the convention, is there reason to be concerned, or are we just making something out of nothing?
Yeah, I think that there is a really good reason to be concerned. It's certainly not nothing. At the same time, we understand that the Republican Party, that the RNC is a secular institution. It doesn't necessarily have to follow all of our doctrines, but I think that we have a reason to ask, what influence do evangelicals really have over the Republican Party at this point? Have we become, as I heard someone say recently, the cheap date of the Republican Party? And metaphorically, you buy them a couple of drinks and there it goes. And you don't really need to vie for our vote at all. You don't have to give us anything. As long as you are a couple inches to the right of Biden, we have no option but to vote for you, or at least that's how a lot of people feel. That's not a great position to be in. If the president feels like he needs to vie for the votes of someone like Amber Rose and whoever follows her, more than he needs to vie for the vote of evangelical pro-lifers, then we're in a very dangerous position. I would say not just for the party, but for the country.
So I think that's the case. That's how a lot of people are feeling. And I've seen people like on Twitter say, I am a one issue voter. I don't know what to do. And that really sucks. That really, really sucks. And now people would say, you guys are stupid and you guys should just, why would you risk the whole entire election? Like my question goes to Trump on that, and Laura Trump and people who pulled the shenanigans on the platform committee and so on. This election is so important. So why risk alienating such a large base with such an important issue? And then on top of that stuff, you know, the whole Amber Rose thing, and some people like she gave a really nice speech. It was really good. I thought it was kind of mid, but I get why they would think it would be effective. But when she says I'm a mom and I'm an entrepreneur, when she says she's an entrepreneur, did you know she meant that she does OnlyFans? Did you know that she meant pornography? Did you know that? Some people had some screenshots of a sale that she had going on. So the reason why all this stuff is bad, despite the fact that she didn't say anything bad in her speech, but Republicans monopolized that we are the party of family values. We are the party of family values. So the person that you want to headline the first night of the convention is someone who's famous for not only being a whore, but is still a whore. I've no problem with people who turn over a new leaf, but what she does is disgusting. You know, sorry. And people, oh, these prudes, they're holding back the party. I don't know what the party is anymore. We're just the party of what? That at least we know boys can't change their gender. Girls can't change their gender. Is that what we're the party of? Is that what we're the party of? And I don't even know how much, you know, passion we would stand up against that particular thing. It would probably just be like, get those boys out of the bathroom. You're not really coming down hard against the ideology. So what are we doing here? what are we doing here? And if people, I mean, people were complaining about it. Matt Walsh said something about it, and people were mad at Matt Walsh for his comments on it. And someone who I'm mutual friends, and he started saying we need to boycott the Daily Wire. I'm like, I'm not going to boycott Matt Walsh because he said something true. And then I said, well, I kind of think he has a good point that we shouldn't have had the headliner be a woman who supported Satanists because they help women have abortions. And then it got to a big like debate about abortion back and forth with him and so on, when we didn't really need to change the topic from Amber Rose. But and people are like, well, people can change. But all I know is that she likes Trump specifically, that she feels like the media lied to her. She did some research and that he's not a racist. But in her endorsement statement about him, she's like, he's pro-choice. So and she said the families are better under Trump. That's true. That's true. But I don't see any, like, what kind of foundations are we standing on? Is it just like sinking sand? Is it just, in the meantime, here's some populist stuff, and we'll change our opinions on things as other ideas get more popular, and then we'll abandon what we have to in order to win elections? Because I don't think there's much point to having a political party exists then, if we're just gonna slow walk ourselves into being Democrats. So I want us to do better, but there doesn't seem to be much drive to do that. Just joined in reference to pro-life or pro-choice, or just in general of Amber Rose, of her shenanigans. Oh, that I brought up Amber Rose to because people were upset that she spoke at the RNC. I mean, I first knew of Amber Rose because of the slut walk thing, and Rebel News covered it, and there's wild stuff going on in some of those walks. But that's how I first heard of her. But she dated and slept with a lot of rappers and stuff, and so I just, and it's totally fine if she wants to identify as Republican. It's fine if she wants to wear the MAGA hat. It's fine if she wants to support Trump. It's a user platform to do that. I just don't think that it's appropriate for the Party of Family Values to platform her. And I don't understand what people can't understand about that, or why they disagree with that. And I understand they're saying, well, she has all these followers, millions of followers, and all this reach. Yeah, I get that, but she still has that when she posts herself like naked with the MAGA hat. She doesn't need to be on C-SPAN. More people will see her post than will watch something on C-SPAN. So it wasn't necessary to platform her and start and continuously chipping away at that family values thing. But yeah, go ahead and keep protesting about, all the depravity in the world. and then have, the OnlyFans people headline your convention. And I don't want people to think that I'm saying this stuff like so high and mighty, because people can't be redeemed and so on and so forth. Because I've spoken out against people who came, like Pearl, when she was talking trash about what's her name, Nala, who's the OnlyFans girl, and she ended up becoming Christian, and she ended up closing her OnlyFans account. She did an interview with Michael Knowles and stuff, and it's a really inspiring story, and I hope I pray that she just keeps on that path and encourages more people to leave that lifestyle. But if you're still doing it, I just don't see the wisdom in platforming that. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. So anyway, I'm with Allie here that there's a lot of disillusioned people who are wondering how much power that they have still in the Republican Party, if there's still room for them under this big tent. But when we say that Republican Party is a big tent, because people keep lecturing, like, I thought we were a big tent. We gotta why are you trying to reject certain people? And so the tent that we have to be under has to have some kind of values. Like, that's what it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian, if you're gay or whatever. If you believe in the certain values that we all stand for, then that's fine. And even if there's some things maybe that you don't align with, but when we start rejecting things because they're no longer popular, and we're rejecting things that have been our platform for like 40 years, and you're bullying people out of the platform committee room and all that stuff, it's just not a good look, and it leads people to feel like there's really no place for them. So and I think that feeling is really exacerbated by comments that Eric Trump made today. Well, I don't know if it was today. Might have been last night, but Kirsten Hawkins pointed it out. And some people think that maybe she's taken out of context a bit, but I'll let you guys hear.
The Republican platform, interestingly, has moved to the center on a couple of key issues. For the first time in 40 years, the Republican platform does not call for a federal abortion ban. It no longer defines marriage as between one man and one woman, but it doesn't. So is this a sign that your father is moving to the center in some ways or on some issues?
Yes, I think he's always been there on those issues, to tell you the truth. And I think that's reflective of who my father is and what he believes in. And I think that's reflective of my wife, Laura, who runs the RNC, and clearly what she believes in. And I'm proud of the party. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, this country has real holes in the roof, and you've got to fix those holes, and you've got to stop worrying about the little, spot on the wall in the basement. You've got to fix those holes, and we've got real immigration problems.
So, Kirsten Hawkins is very upset about the comment of the holes in the spots on the wall. We got to deal with the spots on the wall rather than the hole. Though we got to deal with the holes in the roof rather than the spots on the wall. And so Kirsten Hawkins, she's the president of Students for Life. She said the loss of more than 65 million lives to intentional abortion is not a spot on the wall. And frankly, as any homeowner knows, a spot of mold on the wall can kill. If anyone should understand firsthand how culture of death that minimizes people's humanity can lead to terrible consequences, it should be the Trump family. Republicans need to do better. If you can't multitask and deal with mold in the basement and holes in the roof, don't ask to take over the House, Senate, and White House. Dang, that's a strong statement. I don't know what it's really gonna do if you're still gonna knock the doors and all that stuff. So, at the end of the day, the Republican Party, the RNC, Laura Trump, his wife, who's the co-chair, the Trump campaign, they all knew that they could push the platform in the direction that they wanted to go, because they said, well, where are the evangelicals going to go? Where are the pro-life people going to go? Like, where are the Christians going to go? You go vote for Biden? Like, you don't have any other options. We're the best you got, sweetheart. Like, that's the attitude. That's actually like pretty much what Marco Rubio said about the issue when he was asked about backlash about the platform. He's like, what other options do they have? And that's what they told the people in the platform committee room. Like, where else are you people going to go? So that's why they did it, because they don't expect anyone to hold them accountable for them making the change. They expect you to just kind of shut up and go toward the middle and not obstruct. So I'm not okay with that. And it concerns me. If it was just Trump and Trump's position, and then that would be one thing. But the making the party reflect those views, and Rubio said, well, the platform should reflect the nominee. I think the party's more than just a nominee. But then you had, JD Vance talking about the abortion pill, and he's supposed to be all super pro-life, and now he's like, no, we support access to the abortion pill, which is responsible for 2/3 of abortions. And the platform only mentions late-term abortion. So what about earlier abortions? It's still a human child before 21 weeks, So there's just a lot to be concerned about. I'm really concerned about this attitude. That was such a crazy minimization. She said he needs to apologize. I wouldn't hold my breath about something like that. But I don't understand this. And again, people would say like, well, you evangelicals just shut up, and why would you want to risk this election? Is too important. Exactly. So why try this and make this chasm? I don't understand. Why risk this? Because why change the platform so dramatically on this issue? Why? Because yeah, there would have been some coverage about it. But guess what? They're still lying and saying you want to ban abortion across America. So even though you're going around saying you support access to the abortion pill and you think it's a state issue, blah, 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 they're still going around lying about it. So I think they got to fix this. I mean, they should have fixed it in the platform already, but this attitude, spot in the wall. 1 million babies are killed in the US every year. It's not a spot in the wall issue. And to not understand the life issue is to just miss it so completely. Rush Limbaugh understood that. And Dan Bongino has talked about that too. It's like, if you don't understand the life issue, we're talking about an inalienable right. The border is really important too. But there's some people who are concerned about how much Trump is going to deliver on that anyway. How much can he actually build a wall? Are they actually going to deport all those people that they're talking about? And are they going to try to do any sort of amnesty? Because Trump did pitch doing amnesty when he was in office. So if they're like, should I compromise with this really big thing here in case that he might do this thing that's really necessary, but he didn't quite deliver the last time? And if they don't build the wall and put some other kind of long-lasting measures in place, because it is easy for Trump to sign executive orders, but that's just patching a hole until the next person comes along. It's kind of like the Remain in Mexico abortion policy thing. Like a pro-life president gets it in, they put it in place. A pro-choice president gets it in, they take it away. A pro-life, just back and forth. So Biden was able to undo a lot of things that Trump did because he did executive orders like Trump did. So if you don't get some really big legislative victories, then you're not fixing the roof. You're just, patching a hole, a shoddy one, until it will collapse. So I just hope, I guess we just got to pray, and voice our concerns. Maybe if we voice enough of our concerns, people will act a little bit better, so they won't fully complete this move transition to the left. And Eric's saying, well, my dad always kind of felt this way. Yeah, that's what people were afraid of. That's what people were afraid of, Eric. That's what people were afraid of. Oh, comment from Bree, being 8 months pregnant and hearing this from my party is heartbreaking. Yeah. Oh, someone else is 7 months pregnant. It's sad, But again, I just to the person who kicked me from their live, and I'm just saying real things that are true. Oh yeah, congratulations by the way, you guys. Hope you guys have safe deliveries, and give birth to healthy babies. Yeah, there's just a lot of people who don't know things. I don't if people say I don't care about all this stuff, I just want immigration fixed, and I want my gas prices to be lower, and in the meantime, yeah, that sucks about some other stuff going on, but I want this other stuff done, and I can bite the bullet for these things. I can respect that position, fine. Like I understand that. But I don't appreciate people lying about the situation. Like, people can stop saying he's the most pro-life president ever when he's literally pro-choice. Like, let's just stop. Let's just stop saying that. Let's just be straight about where we are and go from there. Don't tell me that the platform committee didn't steamroll people who were at the convention when you just didn't research it. You're just in denial. You're just in denial about it. I wish it weren't true. One time someone told me, I think it was my sister told me, I wish the things you said on your broadcast weren't true. I wish they weren't true either. I wish they weren't true either. Unfortunately, many of these things are, including, I already briefly mentioned this, but in California, they made it so that the school does not have to alert parents if the children have say that they're trans. They don't have to alert the parents, and the teachers are protected if they keep it a secret. And I actually saw, perhaps there'll be really big repercussions to this. Elon Musk announced this was the final straw. He's moving SpaceX from California to Texas, I believe. So he's taking all those jobs, plucking them from California. He's like, I already told them that there were some other things going on that were bad, but this is the final straw. He's taking his business elsewhere. So they'll have a different headquarters, and there's lots of businesses leaving California. Lots of families fleeing California. If you flee California, don't bring your stupid ideology somewhere else. Like Jillian Michaels left California, went to Florida, was complaining about all the crazy stuff going on in California, and everyone's like sharing her interview with Steele. Gosh, what's her first name? I can't think of her first name, but was all sharing it. And I'm like, but Jillian Michaels also said if her son said that he was a girl, then they would, she would basically support him, but he can't do anything until to his body till he's older. And I guess had time to really think it through and so on. I'm like, but that's the problem. Your ideology there. If your son says that he's a girl, why not say that's not true? Or say, no, I guess you don't have to put it that bluntly at first, but just say, what do you think that means? Can you validate your experience? How do you know that? How do you know what it's like to be a girl? And try to get them to really think about it, because all they'll have are these stereotypes, and they can't validate their experience because they're not a girl. So it's not about well, they have the right to do this when they're older. It's about objective truth. It's about not lying to your kids. It's about not trying to disrupt the order of things. So if you're just going to be like, oh, this is just an issue that they just need to wait till they're older, you're still bringing a crazy ideology and importing it elsewhere. You're just a very moderate version of the crazy. Not even moderate. You're still a version of the crazy. Maybe you're dialed up on 8 instead of 11. But you're still leading us down a path where there will probably be enough crazy people in Florida or Texas or somewhere else to overtake and create another Gavin Newsom. Gretchen Whitmer is not that far from Gavin Newsom. Michigan is not quite crazy enough to allow the Gavin Newsom stuff, but she's crazy enough to be him if we allowed it. I don't see why anyone thinks that guy can be president one day. These policies are going to kill him. They're going to kill him if he runs. That's way too extreme. But that's the world we're living in. Hopefully there's big pushback with this kind of stuff. And you might say, well, that's one reason why we really need Trump in the office. I need to hear what kind of federal plan that they would implement to stop this. Because if they're not going to do something federally, then it doesn't really matter. It's just something that people of California have to decide. If that's just going to be a states' rights issue. So it won't matter one way or another what happens on a federal level if they're not going to do anything, impose anything from a federal level. I mean, what will happen with like different judicial appointments and so on won't matter, but the judges is another good reason to not support Biden, but or I guess to vote Trump, assuming that he appoints similar judges from the Federalists that he got before. But I don't know. People don't feel like they have to be on their best behavior when they're when they're the lame duck. Last thing I want to show you guys before I let you go is this video about on MSNBC about Trump's ear. And I don't understand why people care about the ear so much. I had saw a video on TikTok about speculations with his ear and the bandages, and someone was like, I want to put out a call to medical professionals about his ear. And is this really how you would bandage the ear? And someone who was a medical professional actually started showing different bandages that look very similar to his ear. And like, what do you think he should have? Like a full like face mask of bandages and just look like a mummy? Like, what do you think should happen? Here we go. It's a short clip. We don't have to talk about this long, but this is a former chair of the Michigan Republican Party, by the way.
Where I am at this point is it's been 3 days going on 4 since this horrific event occurred. A person lost their life, 2 have been severely injured. And yet we've not received a medical report from the hospital, nor have we received a medical report from the campaign or from the Trump organization about the extent of the damage to his ear. If he was shot by a high caliber bullet, there should probably be very little ear there. And so we'd like to know that. Is there cosmetic surgery involved? What is the prognosis for recovery? Were there stitches? What is the extent and nature of the damage to his ear? Was it caused by a bullet, as opposed to, as some reports from those on the scene, other reporters, saying that it was actually shards of glass from the teleprompter itself, not the bullet. So there are a lot of questions around that ear, and yet there's been no response to that. Instead, just showing the image of the man coming into right. the hall with the wounded ear.
So why does it matter? Like, I understand it that you're curious. Joe Biden's brain is melting in front of the whole entire world. And we have Eargate. There shouldn't be much ear there. Well, we saw a picture. We saw him get up with a bloodied ear. You know, why is it that big of a deal? Why is it that big of a deal about the ear? Like, we need to see all those reports about the ear. Or what? Like, is that just something? And they're not the only ones I've heard people talk about the ear situation and the medical records, and we need to see them. Are you guys just trying to distract from people wanting like medical records of Joe Biden to know if he has Parkinson's or dementia and stuff? Is this just like the reflection? Well, Biden might be losing his mind, but did you see Trump's ear? We need to know what's left. And this man was an RNC chair. So just FYI, when people talk about the party switch myth, and they're like, well, even Michael Steele said there was a party switch. That's Michael Steele. So next time someone tries to legitimize with Michael Steele, I want you to remember Eargate and how silly these people are. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream and run my website, all that stuff. So if you guys can support, I very much do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. You guys can drop your email so you guys can get different email notifications when there's a email blast that goes out. Check out different merch that's available at the store, like the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For shirt. I got this Be Better Not Bitter shirt. That's pretty cool. I got the Slay Your Fear book. That's a book about, it's a spiritual, nonfiction faith book. I wrote it during COVID because people were crazy. It's not specifically about COVID. It's about overcoming fear, but you guys can imagine why I wrote it during that time, because people were using their fear to just be evil to one another, and it was absurd. And I also have my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. So I encourage you guys to go ahead and check that out. God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.